what do you think needs to happen at Atletico de Madrid for them to be able to go ahead and remove themselves from, like, let's say, that trauma or that mentality to be able to be a big club in a Champions League, like maybe like in a sense Real Madrid?
I think people might, if they hear this, they might think I'm crazy. Or maybe we're crazy, but I think what needs to happen is that Simeone does need to step out.
Me too.
And I think Simeone doesn't have to leave. People may say, man, why would you say that? Simeone is the one who brought up Atletico Madrid. True. I agree that he brought up Atletico Madrid to where they are right now. And I think he did a hell of a job in rebuilding Atletico Madrid.
Right.
Getting Atletico Madrid to be able to even think about competing with Real Madrid and Barcelona in the Liga and the Copa del Rey. Okay. Simeone got them to 2 Champions League finals. Okay. And in one of those Champions League finals, I remember they eliminated Bayern Munich, Pep Guardiola's Bayern Munich. Okay. And they also, like I said, they eliminated prime MSN, Barcelona under Luis Enrique. So they've done fantastic things, right? They've done a hell of a job. They even, I think, knocked out Liverpool at one stage in the Champions League. Although they didn't get far, but they knocked out Liverpool.
Yeah, they've knocked out big clubs, yeah.
They've knocked out big clubs. But I think it gets to the point now where it's like, yes, okay, I think Simeone is going to be, he's always going to be remembered. And I think he's going to go down as the greatest coach for Atletico Madrid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because of what he did, right? But I think it's gotten to the point now where I think Atletico Madrid are okay. They feel comfortable. Not beating Real Madrid and Barcelona in a Liga. Meaning, instead of saying, okay, yeah, you know what, it's because we cannot compete because we have Real Madrid and Barcelona in front of us. Instead of saying that, they haven't gotten to the point where they say, no, they need to go ahead and keep up with us.
Right.
Okay, and I think Atletico Madrid are at that point right now because we talked, in the previous, in early videos that they've had big spending. They have a big stadium. Okay, they've got big name players.
Yeah.
And they have big name players in my opinion in their club, right? And they've proven that they can make it far. They've won La Liga before. They've won the Copa del Rey before. They've gone to the Champions League finals. So I think in order for them to be able to go ahead and cement themselves has, in my opinion, always been in the top 3 and always aiming for first place in the Liga and always aiming as far as they can in the Champions League, and not being conservative. I think another coach is gonna have to come and probably take them to the next step.
Yeah.
Take them to the next step. Kind of say like, hey, take on the torch and be like, hey, you did a great job. You did everything you could. We appreciate you, but we're gonna go ahead and take it forward from here. And I think if they want to get to the next step, unfortunately, they're gonna have to go for maybe another coach, in my opinion.
I agree with you, and I think that I will go ahead and this is, add to the fact that I believe both you and I think the same when it comes to Simeone. I don't think he's a bad coach,
No,
right?
sure.
And obviously, we're going to say that he's not a bad coach because I truly believe he's a good coach. The thing about it is, I go back to the quote that Luis Enrique said, remember, when he was leaving Barcelona.
Yeah.
He said, sometimes the players need to be told the same thing, by a different person. So in this case, I think that I agree with you. I think that certain Atletico de Madrid players need a new fresh air or need new ideas, right? And so, for example, right, I believe that I think even Simeone leaving even leaving Atletico Madrid, I think will serve him as well, because I feel that he also needs a new challenge, and I actually believe, I think that I see Simeone doing really well in the Italian league, bro. I'm not gonna say I know he played for Inter Milan, but I don't know if Inter Milan is gonna want to go ahead and transition themselves to him. I would, to be honest. If not, you can possibly look at teams like, why not bring AC Milan to the next level as well, or even Juventus, for example, who have kind of fallen a little bit. So I see him very well in the Italian league. I think that that's his playing style. And I think that, for Atletico Madrid, in order for them to remove themselves from that mentality, I think I agree with you 100%, where they need to bring a new coach with maybe better ideas and in a sense where they can get them to the next level. This is just not saying that we believe that, he needs to go, he sucks. No. This is just saying that I think it's best for both parties, because I think both of them have done what they could for one another, And
Yeah.
I know that you brought up a good coach candidate, and I actually agree with you, and I'll let you say it because I think he would do very well for Atletico Madrid as well, and I agree with you.
Yeah, I think if Atletico Madrid were to get Scaloni,
Yeah, Scaloni. From Argentina,
the coach from Argentina right now, I think he would do a hell of a job. I can see him doing really well at Atletico Madrid. And like you said, I think both parties will win, in that aspect, because like you said, I think Simeone will also, we can see him doing good in other teams. Like you mentioned, he played for Inter, he can do good at Inter, Juventus, why not? AC Milan, why not? And then I told you this team. I think Chelsea too. Even though Chelsea are like, you know how they are, right? They fire coaches left and right. They don't give them time, and unfortunately, you have to give a coach like Simeone time, right? But I can see him doing good if they were to actually give him time. I can see him doing good at Chelsea too in the Premier League. So, I think it'll serve good for both parties to kind of maybe just call it quits, and move on from one another. And I think I mean, it happens, bro. No coach can stay at a club forever. Look at Arsene Wenger, right? You actually brought the point where Simeone kind of reminds you of how Arsene Wenger was at Arsenal,
Yeah,
right?
he does. Yeah.
Where, yes, he did. I mean, he brought up Arsenal to where they were, the Invincibles. Got to the Champions League final and lost against Barcelona, right? So he did, in my opinion, what he was able to do. But it got to a point where he was comfortable being fourth place in the Premier League. He was comfortable getting to the round of 16 in the Champions League, quarterfinals in the Champions League, and it was like, okay, that's fine. We did our job, But if you want to get to the next step, get to the semifinals, get to the final. Sometimes it's like it's not to say that the coach did a bad job. It's not to say that the coach is bad or the coach sucks or the coach is no longer good. It's not that, because in my opinion, Simeone, he's still doing his job at Atletico Madrid. But if you want to get them to the next step where they're eliminating the Real Madrids, they're eliminating the Barças from the Champions League, the Bayern Munich for the Champions League, they're fighting for first place, not for third place or for fourth place, or not even for second place. They're fighting for first place in their leagues. I think it will serve well for Atletico Madrid to move on from Simeone, and it will also serve Simeone well to go ahead and, in my opinion, rebuild another team, because I think he's a rebuilding coach. He's a really great rebuilding coach. And like you said, Juventus right now, they're down in the dust, right? Yeah. Imagine him rebuilding Juventus. Yeah. It could happen. It could happen where he manages to get Juventus back into the map, back to where they belong, right? So yeah, I think if Atletico Madrid do move on from Simeone, Scaloni, in my opinion, would be
I agree with you.
High, a really good candidate, an amazing candidate for Atletico Madrid. And I can really see him doing really good at Atletico Madrid.
And I agree with you 100%. And I do want to touch back into that Arsenal, and Atletico Madrid comparison that I did tell you, like I believe that he does remind me of Arsenal with Wenger, because like you said, Arsene Wenger, pretty much became kind of comfortable with the idea of like, oh, you know what, as long as we make it to the Champions League spots next season, we're okay. And
he wouldn't even get trolled by that.
Remember? And then the Arsenal fans didn't like it, bro. And then of course, he retired, he left, and then Unai Emery came in. He didn't do too well at Arsenal. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think Arteta came after Unai Emery.
Yeah, I think Arsenal went through like
two or three coaches,
trying different coaches.
But that's fine, dude. And I believe that, in my opinion, and we've talked about this too, that I believe that Arsenal has a good coach with Arteta. I think that he can do really, really well. But to kind of move, forward with that, I also believe that another good candidate for Atletico Madrid. I honestly, if maybe if he's available later on, maybe I will go for Luis Enrique, bro.
Yeah, Luis Enrique, true. Yeah, Luis Enrique is another.
Luis Enrique, he played for Real Madrid, Barcelona, and I don't think he has any. I don't think he's
affiliation with Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, so I think that why not go for Luis Enrique? Why if you're Atletico de Madrid, I think that you're spending money and
because they're spending big money.
Yeah, you're spending big money. Go ahead and aspire to great coaches. I'm not saying that Simeone is not a great coach, but you know what's crazy too? He's also getting paid very well at Atletico de Madrid, bro. His wages are kind of high.
Do you know how much he's getting paid?
If I'm not mistaken, look, I don't want to quote it because I'm not too sure, but supposedly I heard it was like 20 million a year or something.
20 million euros.
And I heard that he's the highest paying coach in La Liga, right? If I'm not
he's
mistaken.
Definitely the highest paid coach in La Liga, and I think he's the top 3 in the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, if Atletico Madrid can afford to pay Simeone that, I honestly believe, and this is, this is me not saying, like I said, and I agree with you, us not saying that, oh, it's because he sucks, No. I think he's a very good coach. I just think that he's done all he could for that club. Yeah, kind of like what Arsene Wenger did for, Arsenal, and kind of like, let's say, maybe Pep Guardiola maybe could have done more if he wanted to, but I think he was tired. I think he was exhausted. It's kind of like what Zidane did at Real Madrid.
Pep Guardiola too at City, I think.
Yeah. Pep Guardiola at City now.
Yeah.
And I forgot who said that great quote. Leave football before football leaves you. And I think that.
Rio Ferdinand, maybe, probably.
Maybe something like that, right?
I forget who said
that.
But
I don't think that should only be look for into players. I think that also should be applied to managers in football, bro. Because I feel like sometimes managers stay too long at clubs, and I feel like it's just. You don't come
hard,
in.
yeah,
It's
it's
kind of
hard.
like anything in life, bro.
Yeah,
You
of
go
course.
into a job, right? The first year flies by. You're learning everything. You're kind of excited. Let's say it's your career. You have it going on for you. But be there 5 years. Let's see if you work there with the same energy. You're gonna be like, I'm not saying that football is like that, but at the end of the day, Simeone does have a job at Atletico de
Yeah,
Madrid.
that's his job.
So it's like maybe he does need to find new motivation to go somewhere else, and maybe who knows, maybe he'll do a lot better. Maybe I don't know, but I think that Scaloni or Luis Enrique possibly in the near future can also be a very good signing for Atletico Madrid in terms of managers.
Even Conte, bro. Why not Conte too?
Even Conte as well.
could do a good job at Atletico Madrid. I can see him doing really well right there.
Yeah,
Tuchel just went to coach England.
he's coaching the English. Well, the
He's
thing
in a good
about the Tuchel, bro, is that the English fan base believes that they have better coaches in England than Tuchel.
That's a whole different topic, bro. I mean, those English pundits, bro. I think it's the
Yeah,
pundits.
man.
They're just delusional, bro. To think that they actually have English.
Mo Salah for the Ballon d'Or. I'll give it to Mo Salah.
Mo Salah.
I'll give it to the Mo Salah. Mo Salah has a. Where is Mo Salah in the Champions League,
Amazing
bro?
season. I don't see anybody beating him. Amazing season.
Where has Mo Salah been in the Champions League, bro? I know this is a different type, but just real quick,
He always disappears, like you said.
he
When
tends
it
to.
matters most in the
big
Champions League,
games.
he disappears.
I know. Sergio Ramos did an arm lock on it. But besides that game, he kind of did. He doesn't disappear. But whatever, we'll discuss that in another video.
Yeah, that's all different. That's a Ballon d'Or topic. Maybe towards the end of the year. It's a
Yeah.
preview of the Ballon d'Or topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that. But to finish it off with my statement with Simeone and Atletico de Madrid ending ties, I think that would be very good for both of them actually. And I think that Atletico Madrid can aspire to win something else, maybe greater. Because let's also not forget, bro, one La Liga,
That's true.
13 years, bro.